Welcome back, everybody, and as always, HVAC Uncensored is brought to you by Yellow Jacket. 66 years of expertise built into every tool.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen, and God bless the USA.
If you're trying to take your HVAC game to the next level, then buckle your seatbelt, crank up the volume, and try not to be offended. Because you're listening to the HVAC Uncensored podcast with Gil Cavey and Kelly McKay. Now, here's Gil and Kelly.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 13 of the HVAC Uncensored podcast. Happy to be here again, as always, and sitting across my good buddy, Mr. Kelly McKay. What's up, brother?
Doing good, man. Welcome to the number one fastest growing podcast in iTunes. I don't know if that's really true or not, but we're going to say it and pretend that it's true.
Hey, it's all right. You know, it's one of those things, as long as you believe it, you know, like it's beauty's on the inside. That's kind of like what ugly people say.
Got to set goals.
That's what, yeah, exactly. But hey, we've been doing good, man. The fact that we are where we are as fast as we are, before this ever started and me and you were just talking about it, if you'd have told me we'd be where we are right now, as far as numbers and stuff go, I would have been like, no way. So, obviously, it's just a stepping stone. Still got to keep going. And me and Kelly are constantly going to be adding on to this podcast, doing different things. So, you know, we change our content around. We do different things. So you kind of never know what to expect. It's not going to be the same thing every week. I know we've had a lot of similar topics here previously. But guys, remember, we're only at this is the 13th episode. So we can kind of go off in any direction that we choose to, and that's what we're going to do.
And, you know, if you don't like it, don't listen.
I mean, yeah, that's the truth. And
we do what we
I've
want.
already addressed this topic. Yeah, I've already addressed this topic, but I'm going to address it again. And I will say that I've made this decision that I am no longer going to use foul language on YouTube. I do think that I shouldn't. I was recently on a live stream with Shop Talk. And I guess some people said some stuff, which, I mean, no offense to them. I really don't care. I mean, it kind of is what it is. I do apologize for cursing on there, especially because it wasn't our channel. I was never told not to. But if it was an issue, then I will apologize to Zach and the Shop Talk podcast. But I mean, I don't think it was an issue. But I am doing that off my decision. But as far as this podcast, I mean, I'm going to do what I got to do. So if you don't like the cursing and stuff like that, hey, people, you guys are grown adults. I respect your decision not to listen. That's fine. I mean, it's not hurting my feelings. But like I've said a million times, I rate the podcast explicit. I don't hide it from you. It's not like, you know, you click on it and you're like, oh my God, they're cursing. We kind of let you know up front. So
sure,
if it's not your cup of tea, it is what it is. But
sure,
enough with that, man. Another week, man. I guess, guys, we're gonna keep this intro short and sweet. We have a guest tonight that we're trying to jump into here.
Yeah, well, I'll just say that the weather's been mild here. I don't know what the weather's doing there. I know you had some shit go down this week. It's been a rough week for you. So I feel for you. Shit that we all go through. But with customers, clients, with our staff, with our coworkers. But all you can do is all you can do, and all you can do is enough. So you do what you do, take care of your customers the best you can, and move forward. But we all go through rough patches. We've been through quite a few. Over the last 10 years, I know Gil's been through a lot, you know, on this journey in the HVAC world. But, you know, ultimately, the weather's mild. I guess that's, you know, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but the weather's been mild here. We are full of installs, thankfully. I've got several full system / ductwork and everything installs going, so that's keeping everybody busy. Other than that, I did a voice shot today and yesterday to call all of our existing maintenance agreement customers. So the phones blew up for a couple of hours with people calling back. We got a lot of those people scheduled. So now the schedule's full all through next week, pretty much. So how's business for you, Gil?
Nice. Yeah, weather here has been rainy and horrible. It's been maybe like mid to high 70s. So service has dipped off pretty good.
Yeah.
We're decent on on installs, but I won't lie. This is probably the slowest we've been in a while. There's probably a couple of guys that won't get 40 hours this week, and that'll be the first time in a long time. I won't go off too much into what Kelly was referring to. Me and Kelly had talked earlier today in off air about just an issue. And I'll start off because one of the guys listens to the podcast and he knows that I love him to death. And pretty much we have two younger guys that we had doing installs that they're great guys. They have so much potential to be awesome techs in this trade. They really do. But they got too big for their britches. They got complacent and they just started doing some ugly work, and some directors found out. Some calls were made, and it started a lot of shit that we had to go through to keep accounts. And to be honest, there's a couple that we're still kind of on thin ice. We have to try to gain their trust back, which we will. We definitely will. Trust me, because this kind of stuff won't happen again. We had a meeting yesterday where the owner I went out and took pictures and things. He had pictures. Just some things were unsafe, and it's just about taking the time to just. Sure. When you get done a service call and install, you want to be able to be like, man, look at that, take a picture of it and be like, man, this is awesome. Not if somebody says who installed that and you're embarrassed to say it was yours. And the sad part is both of these guys know what to do. And, maybe it was our fault for not going behind them and stuff like that. So, but that's all been taken care of. It's just like Kelly said, it's just the nature of the beast, something you got to deal with. Just trying to let these guys know that these two big accounts, I mean, if we lose them, that's a lot of work. I mean, that's whether they get 40 hours or go home or somebody gets laid off. I mean, that's the kind of work we're talking about. So,
you can't,
but we'll figure it out.
Sorry for interrupting. You can't, when you're busy, in the heat of the battle, you don't have time to inspect every job. There's just not enough hours in the day to get to everybody and inspect every job. So we didn't really talk about this, Gil, but one thing that we did to help with that, it doesn't completely solve it, but it does help quite a bit, is to first we debrief before the installation team leaves. They have to call the office and they're going to get hit with some questions. Did you put stickers on the unit? Did you walk through the startup with the client? Did you clean up everything? So we're going to ask them these types of questions. We just have a little short list, but the main thing that we do is they have to send 3 pictures of the furnace, 3 pictures of the air conditioner from all different angles. And then we want a picture of the disconnect as well, because the bottom line is sometimes, for whatever reason, we get lazy and we just don't do the job that we know we're capable of. And when that happens, the company can suffer from it because it can have a lot of backlash through reviews and everything else. So we always have to be vigilant about our installs. And this is a big reason why, I'll just back off the mic a little bit. This is a big reason why people don't move forward from like a one-man company or a 2-man show or a 3-man show. They don't move forward because they feel like they're losing a grip on the quality. And it can happen. It just has to be managed. And during the heat of the battle, it's tough to manage. So it's just about maybe implementing a couple new processes that might help clean that up and make you feel good about every installation that happens.
Yeah, no, I agree. And talking with the owner, I think actually what you just said is what we're going to do, because like you said, in the summertime when you're rocking and rolling, it's hard to be able to go out there and always check behind somebody, but we're going to do the pictures things. And I might do actually how you just said. I like that whole 3 pictures of every side, so you could see everything. And
it works.
So for somebody to, be able to see that before they even leave the property. Yes. Like, because a couple of these, I can tell you right now that they're going to be watching us like hawks. So I would rather us know, hey, fix that before you leave, than them call us, because that's not going to be good.
Yeah, it's surprising what you can see in just a picture. You can really zoom in and see if there's anything that you don't like, and then have them fix it while they're right there on the job.
Yeah. One thing, just referring to install guys, a lot of you guys, man, if you do installs, I know gas, you don't have to crank on it because it's not high pressure, but always check your joints. Always soap bubble your joints when you turn the gas back on. Guys, I found one the other day. It was the Seal Tight, those fittings. And I'll be brief. If you don't know how to do those, ask, because there's a certain way to do them so they work, that you have to cut that yellow or black, whichever one you're using, insulation off enough so that when that nut goes on there and there's two little pieces inside go down, that it fits, it seals tight, and there can't be any burrs on it. I say that I walked into a house for a service call. It was an install that we had just done. It was one of these are the ones that want Goodman systems, and I think we put the Honeywell T4s on there. And the tenant had locked it. And I went there for that, but as soon as she opened the door, the smell of natural gas was pungent. I mean, to the point where I was like, what the fuck's going on here? Thank God I was able to correct it before something bad happened or the development even knew about it. But immediately I went out, got my soap bubbles. I soap bubble one of those fittings on the Seal Tight. Things leaking like a sieve. I mean, and the sad part is that had been going for like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
I mean, I that could have been bad. I mean, she could have flipped the light switch, lit the stove, and that house blows up. So not only is someone going to lose their life, our business is shut down.
Absolutely.
I mean, the person who did it could be criminal charges. My owner could face criminal charges. I mean, just for something so small. So just make sure you go behind yourself, guys, and check those small things. That's just something that you can't leave. You can't have things like that. And it's one little minor mistake. Well, it's not. You think that it's minor, but it's huge. And like my owner told all the guys yesterday morning, and sometimes it's not necessarily a big mistake you make on a job, but it can be a bunch of small things that add up to make a job look like shit. When you walk on a job and you're like, a service call even, you go on to blow out a drain and there's no clean out. And you're like, oh, what the fuck, man? Well, exactly. Those little things that you want to do. Like me, I never started off as an everyday installer. I started off in service. So when I did do installs, I installed stuff as if I was going to come back and service it and how I would want it to be. So it's just little things to think like that. But I mean, I won't go too far off because we have a guest waiting. So
sorry to keep you waiting, Ethan, but I met Ethan last week at a class. We went to the outdoor variable speed train class, and he sat in front of me. He's like, "Hey, Kelly," and I'm like, "Hey." He's like, "I listened to your podcast," and anyhow, we got to talking, and really nice guy. Great to meet him, and so he thought maybe we'd bring him on the podcast. I'm like, why not? So
yeah, definitely. So welcome, Mr. Ethan. Go ahead and introduce yourself, buddy.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Just wanted to say, Kelly, I liked that class and learned quite a bit from it. I don't know, what were your thoughts on it?
I thought
just real quick.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. When I can tell you one thing, it was a little more fun. That the teacher was really good compared to some of the classes I've been to that Lynn taught. No offense against Lynn, but he was definitely more upbeat and tried to make it fun. So I thought it was good.
Awesome. Okay.
So that was an inverter class?
Yes.
Yeah. Ethan may have more experience in these than we do. He works for one of my competitors here locally in the Wichita, Kansas area. And we haven't installed that many of those. I think we've got 2 of them out there is all, which I stayed away from them for the first year and a half or so because I was afraid of all the issues. Anytime something brand new comes out, I tend to stay away for a little while, let them work out all the bugs. So we're fairly new to it, but I expect us to sell quite a few more going forward?
Yeah, I haven't been able to get my hands on too many of them, so that's why that class was so good.
Yeah.
Just have some base knowledge going into being able to service them.
Yeah, that website, fieldtechhelp.com. If you're any of the train variable speed stuff, there's all kinds of training videos on there. So we had to do a fire off on a brand new one, just turning it on for the first time. And I sent my tech that video so he could watch it and listen to all the sounds it makes, and that way he would know that everything's okay. So utilize that training at fieldtechhelp.com.
Yeah, that's good. See, I am big on inverters. Kelly knows that I try to sell a lot of high end equipment. So we're carrier dealers, but I wouldn't say that I think I'm pretty knowledgeable when it comes to inverters, and it is good to get that basic training because people look at that stuff and they get googly eyes like, oh my God. But really, once you start learning these fault codes and simple things, it's not as bad as they're made out to be. And there's going to be a podcast where I'm going to dig deeper into that because I know a lot of guys ask me questions. They act like I'm some carrier guru, which I am far from it. I'm pretty fluent in carrier. I'm good with it, but I'm far from being a guru.
Hey, Gil, I'm working on a 1978 carrier. What do I do?
A lot of questions,
I'm sure.
Man. I mean, I've been able to help a lot of guys, but there's a lot of questions where I'm like, okay. But it's all good. But yeah, Ethan. So I guess let us know. I guess how long have you been in the trade? Obviously, we know you don't got to say the company you work for. We know you live near Kelly. So how long have you been in the trade, and how did you get into the trade, bud?
So I've been in the trade just a little shy of 2 years. I'm 19, going to be 20 here in a couple months, and got into the field. Actually, went to tech school here in Wichita. While I was in high school, my junior and senior year, the state of Kansas offers to pay for you to go to technical college for whatever you want to do that they offer. They will pay for you to take a half day of technical college. So I had a buddy in my, I guess it was PE class, and he said, this class is super easy. I just go there and get out of high school and get to goof off with my friends for a little bit. So that's why I went to class. Yeah, exactly. And that's what it was for a couple of months. It was just goofing off. And then one day it just kind of clicked, and I realized, hey, I really like this stuff. And I don't know if you guys are like me, but once you like something, it's all you can think about. And so you really get really into it. So that's when I started learning a lot more, and that kind of led me towards my first job. And I worked there in between my junior and senior year of high school, and kind of just shadowed and was just an apprentice, and then went back full time after I graduated.
That's awesome, man. My father, handed me this trade, but I was kind of like that where I did this for a long time and I was just going through the motions, and I didn't realize what he had handed me, because this is a really good trade. You can make good money. It's a very good trade. We're always going to be here. You always have a job. So, and it's good to see the younger generation get into the trade, because it seemed like it was dying off for a while there, where like the older guys were either dying off, retiring off, and they were doing that faster than younger guys were coming in. But I'm glad that you said you went to school. We've had this debate over that. How was your school? And do you think you could be where you are now without doing that school?
I do. I think I could have started as an apprentice somewhere had I really worked towards it. But having that schooling definitely does get your foot in the door. You don't learn, you probably learn more in your first couple of weeks with hands-on, on-the-job training than you do in your entire year of schooling. And that's just, there's nothing you can do about that. It's just hands-on training is the way to learn. So had I not had the schooling paid for me, I probably would be a little upset about it, because I didn't come out with as much knowledge as I thought I should. But
yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that the state of Kansas did that. I think that's great. I think more people need to know about that. I've never heard of that, but glad that you didn't get in debt and start into the trade in debt, because that's what I hate seeing people do, just for the fact that I just don't like debt. But you don't start at the top of this pay scale when you first get hired. So it makes that, it makes that debt tough to get over, and it can take, many, many years of payment. So
that, and when you start off in the field, you're going to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars buying tools.
Yeah.
So add that on to your student debt, and you kind of dug yourself a little deep.
Absolutely. Where it'd be best if you could just get your foot in the door, then you'll have that extra money and make that payment on all the new tools that you can buy, which is a lot funner than paying for school that you've already finished. So, but what do you like the most about the industry, and what do you dislike?
Well, I'd probably say I'll start off with what I do like, and that's probably us as heating and air technicians. We kind of wear a lot of hats, and we're kind of a little bit of everything, a little bit of electrician and plumbing and salesman. Even if you're not selling systems, you're still having to sell that pound of refrigerant or that leak search or whatever it is. And if you've ever done a preventative maintenance and found a capacitor that's reading low but not failed yet, then you absolutely have had to work to sell that to the customer, because they don't really believe it, what they can't see. So that, and kind of a therapist to the customer sometimes, a lot of the times. So sure. That's kind of a positive and a negative. You kind of there's a lot to learn, but once you do learn it, and it can be really fun. So that's kind of both positive and negative.
Right. Yeah.
That's so funny that he said that, Kelly. How many times have we talked about what you just said? The fact that you know that at a young age and early in your career is awesome, Ethan, because what you just said is what they try to teach guys twice your age. When you try to get them, because guys say, I don't want to sell, I'm not a selling tech and blah, blah, blah. But what you just said, when that capacitor's bad and you have to go pitch that to the customer and tell them that it's bad, they got to get a new one. That's the sales process right there. It doesn't matter whether it's $10, $100, or 10,000. You're still performing the sales process every call that you go on. And that's awesome that you just said that and you realize that already. It really is.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I do have a question from Ethan to us. So do you want to get into that now, or you got some more questions for him?
No, go ahead. We can bounce back and forth.
So
It doesn't matter. Unscripted and uncensored.
So he asked, let me find it here so I make sure to say it right. What is the one habit that I can start getting into tomorrow that would make me a better service technician? So I'll let you take this first, Gil.
Well, I guess I wouldn't say I couldn't say one thing. I would have to say a couple. Always be on time, man. Always. That is huge from a manager and owner standpoint, is whether you're on time to the office, you're on time for a call, because time is money, and that's what it comes down to. So if you got to be a call at 8:00, you're there at 8:00. That initial, I'm not sure how your company works, whether you send them an email, a text, a phone call, but that initial phone call is more important than you think it is, because that is your first interaction with that customer. So if that call doesn't go well, you're kind of setting off the call for failure. Third of all, little things. Don't cut corners, and you always do work as if you're working on your own system. Like I said in our intro, like installing service calls, you want to do something so it looks pretty, that when you're done and somebody asks who did that, you want to jump up and be like, I did that. That's how you want it to be. You want to always put effort. And it's really easy in this trade, through the monotony of the summer, when you're working, the hours are tough, you're tired, to cut corners and be like, oh, well, I don't have to put that extra screw in on this job. I don't got to put the wire ties on to clean those wires up. Nobody will know. That's becoming complacent. And that's when that bug, that disease of me, can start to bite you, and it never ends well. I can promise you it never ends well. So sorry for the long answer, but go ahead, Cal.
Oh, you're good. I got a long answer too. So this may be an odd way to answer this, but I'm telling you, this book completely changed my mindset. It made me look at what things in a completely different mind, and that is read, think, and grow rich. Because the bottom line is, any type of personal development is going to make you a better person. And when you become a better person, you're going to become a better tech. Also, always invest, I think, no less than 10% into your own, whatever you're currently making. Take 10% of that and spend it on anything that's going to make you better. Anything that you want. Like if there's an online course that you're like, I want to check that out. Or if there's a seminar that you want to go to, or there's a training, and it might be in Kansas City or Omaha or somewhere. Like just spend 10% of your wages on your development, on your education. Always be raising your standards. You know, I've heard the term shadowboxing, which is basically role playing. Always, you know, don't be afraid to role play with your girlfriend or your wife or your parents or your cousins. Like role play different scenarios, because the more comfortable, as uncomfortable as that may be for you, the more comfortable you get with it, the more it's going to seem natural, and the more comfortable you'll be with the client when that time arises that you have to have these conversations and stuff. So always be role playing. I always recommend people track their own sales unless it's being tracked for you. So there's 4 things. I know it's not just one thing, but Think and Grow Rich will change your life if you let it.
That's perfect. I'll check out that book, and I like what you said about putting 10% back into yourself, and that is something that I can start tomorrow and will start tomorrow.
It's not something that you can't look at it as an expense. It's an investment, and it's the best investment you'll ever make. I promise you. Like I want you from 20 years from now say, hey, Kelly, remember when you told me that? I've been doing that ever since. And last year I spent $100,000 on my education. And look at me, I'm rich. You know, I mean, I wish that for you. And the more you spend in yourself, don't be afraid to spend that money, because it's not an expense; it's an investment.
I don't know if you listen to the podcast every week, but another thing is you heard one of our previous podcasts where we talk about now that you're in your younger years, if your company, I don't know how long, if you've been there long enough to start putting away for retirement and stuff like that now. We preach that to guys. We have another podcast talking about it, but that's another thing, man. If you can, and you won't even, like Kelly said in that podcast, you won't even realize you're missing that money, because you want to be, when you get 50 years old, 45, 50, when your knees are starting to go out, where this trade's taking its toll, to be able to have options, to be able, if you're not in management or whatever at that point in your career, to be able to have those options and stuff like that. Me and Kelly both wish that we would have started earlier. I mean, we're doing good, but me and Kelly both said, we can only imagine how much we would have now if we would have started like when we were at your age. It'd be like, I'd fucking retire.
Unreal. Unreal. Yeah.
And when it comes to tools, I always give this advice. Everybody wants quality tools, and I believe in buying quality tools. But when you start out, don't try to buy everything at once. I see so many guys go into debt. Like most companies have tool loans and stuff like that, which is great. But that's that little piece that's eaten out of your check every week. And it's okay to buy tools, but try to list them in what the priority of how you need them according to what you do. Obviously, if you're an installer, you're going to need those benders and stuff like that a little faster than a guy that does service every day. So prioritize those things and do it that way. Try to get, like one thing a month, or, however you could financially do it. And then all those basic tools you have, once you're starting to get up in pay rate, then you can start going behind and start buying in a higher quality, like going to buy Klein or whatever brand it is that you want to buy. Then you can start buying those high dollar tools. But don't worry if you don't start out, you're not walking around with a Vito bag filled with $1,000 worth of tools, because not everybody starts that way. And when guys try to, they normally get themselves into trouble.
I think it's one of those things that's priorities, also. Just make sure that you got your priorities right. If it's going to help you get you to where you need to go, I say this all the time. If it's going to help you get you to where you want to go, then do it. But if it's not, then consider it. But, take that into consideration before you spend the money, or, get yourself into debt that you don't need.
Yeah, you think about those decisions before you do them. The other thing is, I want to tell you, if you didn't listen to our last podcast, when always, like Kelly said, always be trying to further your education. Some people might have taken me and Kelly the wrong way. We are all for, you're always trying to constantly be learning. But if I can give you any advice, is to be able to master the basics first. Electricity, the refrigeration cycle, what superheat and subcool are, all those basic things, be able to master that stuff, know it like the back of your hand. And once you have those basics mastered, then start to further your education, is start to just build those layers of knowledge. But if you don't have that foundation built and you start trying to add stuff to it, you're eventually going to crumble. And that was my point behind what I said last week on last week's podcast.
Yeah, and I went back and covered my tracks too. I didn't want to sound mean or, it just depends on what you want, I guess. If that's what if you need to know that information and it's going to make you feel better about doing your job, that you have all of the information, then do it. If that's what you need. I personally just, I'm not a super tech. I do know a lot because I've just worked on thousands of units and been in the industry for 22 years. I don't feel like there's
the old fuck.
Yeah, I know. I don't think that there's a light commercial package unit that I can't diagnose. Probably not, a 20-ton unit that I can't diagnose. And the bottom line is I got resources, I can call supply houses. I know all these guys. I've known some of them for 20 years and they're happy to help me. So if I get stuck on something, it's really no big deal, but to each his own,
Yeah, definitely. And that's I have some more questions for Ethan, but that's a good thing he just said. Ethan, don't ever be afraid to call tech support. I know a lot of guys that they think if they call tech support, it's like defeating or, undermining their technical manhood. Dude, I can't tell you how many things I've learned from calling tech support. These guys do this shit every day. And by calling them, they can pin you down to what's wrong maybe in a matter of minutes, something that would have taken you an hour or so. And nobody even has to know that you called tech support. You solve the call, you get done, the boss is happy, and you just learned something. So, but
boom.
yeah, exactly. So Ethan, I'm going to ask you this though. It's awesome that you love this trade. So in 15 years, where would you like to see yourself in this trade? What are your aspirations?
Can you give me a second to think about this one?
Yeah, sure. It's a big thing, but you always you can just tell me to shut up whenever you're ready to answer, but you always want to be thinking about that next level, setting yourself goals, whether it's a short-term goals and then long-term goals, and steadily be hitting those things. Start checking things off the list as you start knocking those goals out. You know what I mean?
Personal goals too, not just career goals. See, this is a lot of things that people have a hard time seeing, that our jobs, they are the vehicle to everything we want, to every goal that we want to accomplish. The job is your vehicle. You have to think of it that way. What you do every day matters.
All right, I got an answer for you.
Let's hear it.
Now, Kelly, you're a business owner, and that seems like, at least in this field, you kind of have one of two routes to go. Either you get experienced and you move on to being a service manager and stay working for somebody else, or you branch out and open up your own company. So that's something that I have thought about, but that is far in the future. So I'm sure my mindset will be different. So I don't put too much thought to it now, but I definitely could still be working in the field in 15 years from now. And I think that would be just fine as well, because I love my job and I like what I do. So either owning my own business or just keep on keeping on like I'm doing right now.
I think that's a good answer. I think that once in the point where if it ever happens where it doesn't excite you anymore, that's when we need to start thinking about a change. And as long as you do the right things, set yourself up, make sure you keep your credit good. If you ever decide to open a business, you'll have a lot of connections by then. You'll have a lot of relationships that you've built through the years. But I'm not so sure, with a great company, that it wouldn't be better. And it just depends on where you're at. But if I was given the opportunity to grow with my company, I probably wouldn't have left. But that's what people leave poor leadership. And I'm not the greatest leader all the time, but I try. If the leadership ever becomes extremely poor, that's when people start thinking about moving somewhere else. And just something to consider. If I guess where I'm going with this is just that if I would have been shown a path and helped to get to where I wanted to go, then I probably would still be with the company that I was with. But there was no path. I was clearly only going to be a tech ever, and I needed more. I was ready to grow financially, mentally, and I needed more of a challenge. So when that happens, and if they don't open up an opportunity for you, that's when it's probably time to start thinking about something else. But I think you should also communicate that to your management team, to your leadership. Let them know, hey, I need more. I want more than this. Instead of just leaving them in the dark, because you never know. I told that story a couple weeks ago about the guy who was going to be made a partner in a company, and well, the management team never said anything to him, so he wound up leaving. And when the management team was like, "Oh no, don't leave," he was like, "We were going to make you a partner." He was like, "Well, you never told me." So communicate with your leadership. Make sure that they're going to have a path for you when you get to that point and you're ready to move to a different level.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd love to one day be in your shoes and own a business, but I watch people that do own small businesses in the heating and air trade, and it's tough. It's long hours and it's tough mentally and financially. So
it is
definitely things that need to be made in the future. But for now, I just am focusing on learning and getting to a point where that's more feasible.
Absolutely. You get to that point, you come see me, and I may invest in your company.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. It's on YouTube, so we can go back and look on
it.
Yeah. We'll make sure we hold Kelly to it. And the other thing is, always remember, man, and a lot of guys might think this is being a business owner, owning your own company isn't like the only way that you can be successful in this trade. Like that doesn't always have to be like, if you don't own your own company at some point, then like you failed of some kind.
No.
I have went off on my own and came back. I failed because of, like I've said a million times, just the people I chose to be in business with. But I have had a good opportunity where I am to be able to advance and be running this company like, full-fledged one day. So there's always opportunities you can have. And like Kelly just said, always let people know. When I first met my owner, I told him when he asked me what I aspire to be, and I said, I want to be sitting behind your chair and, sitting in your chair. And he remembered that. So just always, that's why I said always have short-term goals and long-term goals. And to be honest, I wouldn't, until I'm in the trade 5 or 6 years, I wouldn't even be thinking about, your long-term goals are going to change, but short-term goals, as far as, I don't know, I want to learn this. I want to master this in my trade. I want to get better at this, et cetera, things like that. But always staying positive. And like Kelly said, as far as there's going to be times or a time when you might think that, hey, you don't want to do this and blah, blah, blah. One, that is natural, because anybody who's been in this trade for a substantial amount of time has been through that and been through it several times. I can't tell you how many times that I was like, man, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. So it just happens because this is a very demanding trade, and it's going to beat you up. It's going to chew you up and spit you out several times, and you got to just keep fighting. That's normal. But if it gets to the point where like months, a year, where you get up and you hate your job every day, then that's a different story.
I do have a Go Make Money segment. You got a segment?
No, you can go ahead if you want. Here, let me roll you in.
Now, here's Go Make Money with Kelly McKay.
What's up, everybody? So, I've seen a couple of posts in the Facebook group, and I think this might help some people that are struggling out there in their business, because oftentimes we know what we need to do. We just don't make the time to do it. So I want to talk about just focusing on one thing at a time. And I want you to picture an hourglass. Only one grain of sand flows through that hourglass at a time. But in our business, we get blinded by being reactive all the time instead of being proactive. So our focus is constantly compromised, or it's just non-existent. So how do we fix this? First we have to determine what needs to be done. Once we decide that, we need to chunk it down into manageable pieces. So let's say my goal, which I know is one of Gil's goals coming up here soon, is say, I want to go paperless. We want to go paperless, a new dispatching system, no more handwritten invoices. If that's your goal, you might say, okay, I'm going to chunk this down, break it down into manageable steps. So number one would be, I need to research my options because there are hundreds of options out there to go with. Number two, I need to schedule a demo. Well, that may be scheduling multiple demos. So you can take a test run of all these different softwares and see which one you like best and what makes the most sense for your company. Next step is maybe make a decision. Then you're going to have an onboarding process with the company. Then you're going to have to upload your price list. Then you got to integrate it and train it until it's fully functional and actually working within your company. So the problem is we look at this as like one action. We want to go paperless. But that one action is overwhelming. And when it's overwhelming, it doesn't get accomplished. So here's a way to give yourself some time. If you're, anywhere from a 1-man to a 10-man shop, depending on how busy you are, if you're running service calls still, schedule yourself a service call. Say how long would you say a typical service call runs, Ethan?
Probably about an hour and a half on average.
I would agree. Would you agree, Gil?
I'd say he's right on the money.
Yeah. So let's schedule ourselves a service call. We have an hour and a half to focus on finding a paperless company, or I say paperless company, an invoicing software. So just schedule it on your schedule and don't let anything, don't let a service call that comes in, Mrs. Smith calls right after you decide tomorrow at 1:00. This is a service call for me from 1 to 2:30. This is what I'm going to do. And then Mrs. Smith calls and you say, okay, well, I have a slot open tomorrow, and you fill it. Do not fill it. Leave it open. Use that slot of time to work on your goals. This is the only thing that's going to move your company forward. So schedule it just like you'd schedule a service call. Next, you have to communicate it. Let everybody know on your team that it's do not call me from 1 to 2:30. I am unavailable unless you are bleeding or the truck is wrecked and it's an emergency. Do not call me, because otherwise it just will not happen. So now you may have to start is just, think one grain of sand at a time. You may have to start small with just one slot a day. And you can do this on your other personal goals too. This doesn't have to be just for business goals. You have to take time to focus on what you want in life. Decide, chunk it down. The bottom line is action is empowerment in your business. But when you put these things aside and you don't do them, the opposite is true. Inaction creates disempowerment. So my last thought for you on this segment of Go Make Money is going to be a powerful one, and here it is. Everything does not have to be perfect in order to start it or do it. And that's all I got.
What?
Say what?
No, that's good, man. That's good. I guess Ethan, do you have any more questions for us or anything you'd like to talk about, buddy? The floor is yours.
That was the only question I could come up with for you. Did you have any more questions for me?
No, I guess questions per se. I guess let me ask you this: so you took the class, is there, besides HVAC, was there anything else that like you thought about doing with yourself, or you just kind of wound up doing this?
Yeah. like I said, it was kind of just to go to class just to goof off and get out of high school. So at that point in time, I wasn't really interested in what I was going for. So I just happened to have a buddy in my class that did it. So that's what drew me towards that, just to have someone I knew. So if he had been into mechanics, I'd probably be in an auto shop right now. But I went with E and Air, and like I said, man, when it clicked, and I took it and I hit the ground running, and I haven't stopped since. So I work probably 7 to 5 most days if I'm not on call, and then I get home and I research and I watch videos and I just try and do what I can, and it's honestly, it doesn't feel like work most of the time because I do love my job. So I couldn't be any happier about how things turned out. So it's treated me well so far. Well, I guess we'll see how my body takes it in the coming years, but for now, I'm more than happy.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, and to hear a younger guy with that kind of enthusiasm is awesome. It really, really is.
I got a quick question. What's your buddy doing now? The buddy that you joined the class for?
I think last I heard, this was in the class, he got caught smoking weed out in the parking lot and got kicked out of class. Yeah. So I don't know what he's doing now, but
I think we hang out with the same people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
That's funny. But that is funny because I think I have a friend that they might be the same person.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's your buddy, Gil.
Yeah,
and but starting off out of class in the industry, it was kind of brutal. Nobody really prepared me for this trade, so it kind of took me off guard because as an apprentice, you just have so much to learn, and learning this line of work, excuse me, it's not like reading a book. You can, on your first day of working as an apprentice, you can go and change a TXV and not have any idea what it does. So now you have to wait another 1 or 2 weeks to figure out how to use a recovery machine and the vacuum pump. And then you have to go back to your first day on the job and put it all back together to be able to do it. So everything you're learning just doesn't really make sense. So it was kind of brutal for me starting off. But eventually you kind of get to the point where you may not have ever changed a filter dryer before, but you have brazed before and you have pumped down a system before. So you can kind of piece it all together and make it work. And other than that, that's kind of been my experience so far.
Well, don't ever be afraid to make mistakes, man. I'll tell you right that now, because you'll limit yourself. But I want to ask you this kind of it's a few part question because a lot of guys ask that, especially new guys. One, how hard was it for you to get hired by a company not having any so-called experience? Because most companies say they want 5 years experience, but won't hire you to get 5 years experience. The second one is, when you got hired, were you able to choose whether you went into service or installs, or they just kind of push you in one direction?
So first part of your question, actually, I kind of got lucky on getting my first job. My mom kind of hooked me up with it a little bit, and before I was even taking any of the classes at the college, I was kind of shadowing on spring break and stuff like that, and just getting a feel for the trade, and why when it was time to find a job, they knew me and they knew my face and they were willing to give me a shot. So I kind of got lucky with that. So I didn't have to do any job searching. And the second part of your question, the company that I first worked for, I'm on my second company now, been there for about 2 months now, but the first company I worked for was a small operation, just around 3 to 4 guys, usually, including the boss, who was act as a service technician. And so we did mostly service, but I did do installs, and but for the most part, service. So I'm a service guy now. That's all I do. But I've probably done 30, maybe 40 installs since I've started.
Nice. That's good. Yeah, because some guys, I know we've had a lot of questions with people having, a hard time getting in the trade because of the requirements right now. And sometimes that's where school, I guess, can help when people see that schooling. So that's awesome that you had it in and were able to get your foot in the door, because sometimes that's the hardest part. Have you already started? I know Kelly would know this more, but have you already got EPA license, and do you have started the license in your trade if they have it, apprentice and stuff like that?
Yes. Yeah. So I got the EPA certification through school, and then here in Kansas, it's a journeyman's license that you get, and I got my journeyman's license, and we're not a unionized company or anything, so there's not 5-year apprenticeships or anything. It's 2 years of work experience, and then you can get your license. So that's where I'm at with that.
Good deal. Glad you got it, man.
Awesome.
Yeah. Did you take the Icc exam?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
They didn't even offer the Icc exam when I was getting my license. I had to take the block test. I don't even know if they still give it or not, but
I think you have an option of taking one or the other, but most people do the Icc.
Yeah, all my guys have taken the Icc.
Yeah, you guys, here in Maryland, you have to hold an apprenticeship license. You just pay $10 and start your time, and then you have to work under a licensed master technician for, I think it's 4 years. And then,
is that right?
Yeah, and after you hold that for 4 years, then you can sit and take the test for your journeyman's test. And then I think you have to hold your journeyman's test or hold your journeyman's license, I think, for 3 years. And then you can sit for your master's license. So whatever the requirements are, some people say, if you're not gonna, own your own business, no point in having a master's license. Dude, always try to excel in that, just to have it in your back pocket. You'd rather have it and not need it. You know what I mean? Just that way, it opens up a whole bunch of doors for you down the road.
Sure.
Yeah. I never knew that they differed in different states, so that's interesting.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, there's some states that don't even have licensing.
I think ours is just 5 years in the field to be able to qualify to take the test for a master's license. At least that's what it was when I took it. So,
that explains a lot. Yeah, no, I know Pennsylvania, the last that I knew, there is no licensing, because I had a dipshit brother-in-law who lived in Gettysburg, PA, who had a company, and he was a fucking moron. So how he had his own company is, still gets me every day. But I guess it is what it is. They must have a buttload of contractors running around. And actually, anybody who lives in Pennsylvania, if you guys like to chime in on that on the Facebook group or comment on this post on YouTube when the podcast post, I'd love to know, because as far as I knew, there was no licensing. I do think he had a license in Maryland, because Gettysburg is only an hour and a half away. It's right over the Maryland line. But I don't think there was anything in Pennsylvania, at least at that time. But we are getting on 1 hour, so we're going to have to start closing this out. Ethan, it's been a pleasure having you, man. It is great to hear a young, enthusiastic tech coming into the trade. That is so, so awesome, dude. I would love to maybe talk to you a year from now or 6 months from now, just to see where you are. You're always more than welcome to come back on here. And you can, we'll exchange numbers. Feel free to, if I could help in any way, give me a call. But it was definitely a pleasure having you, man. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me, and I learned quite a bit, and I will definitely see if we can't check.
Sounds good, man. It was a pleasure meeting you. And if you ever become unhappy with your current organization, feel free. My door is open. I'd be happy to take you. You're seem like a really nice young man, and I wish you the best, man. If you ever need anything, you can always hit me up. You have my, you can hit me up on Messenger, or you're welcome to have my cell number and just text me. If you have any questions about anything in the future, I'm here. So I'm not going anywhere.
Awesome. Sounds good, guys. Thank you.
You're welcome, buddy. All right, guys. Well, that was a great obviously that was a great little interview with Ethan, man. That was really, really good. And like we extended the invitation to all you guys, man. If any of you guys want to be on the podcast and you want to talk to us, please feel free to hit us up. We've had a few emails of some other people that are going to be on the podcast here shortly, mixed in with some other interviews that we're going to do of people, so-called experts in the trade, so to speak. But yeah, man, let's go ahead and close this thing out there, Kel.
Hey, if we're wrapping it up, I just want to say thanks everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and it was an honor to have Ethan on. I'm like Gil, man. I mean, it's great to hear young blood, that's excited and is enjoying his job, and he's passionate about it, and he wants to learn everything there is about it. And that's awesome, because he's going to be a super tech someday, and I have a feeling he'll get there a lot faster than I probably did. But
let's not say much.
Yeah. So thanks guys for listening. It's been great. Episode 13 in the books. Still my thoughts and my love and is going out to Mr. Lee. Keep my wife just read something about whenever somebody has the C word, we always talk about it as a fight. Fight, you got to fight it, keep up the good fight. Well, I just don't think we should look at it that way. It's strictly a case of you got to do what you got to do, and you do have to be strong. But sometimes, I don't know, just the concept of a fight can sometimes seem like it's almost like a negative thing if somebody loses the fight, if you know what I mean. And I know you lost your dad. It was to cancer?
Yep.
Yeah, and I lost my mom to cancer. And so I just think it's something that we should reconsider when we talk about people with cancer. Fighting the fight or losing the fight just seems like, I don't know how to describe it. You get what I'm saying?
I do, but I'll tell you why they do that.
Lay it on me.
From firsthand experience. And the reason they say that it's like a fight, because if you see what these people go through every day, it is very easy to want to give up, to say, yeah. I mean, you get put through hell. I mean, when you take chemo, they're putting poison in your body. So they say it's like a fight, and to keep fighting, and you're a fighter because you have to, because you are fighting for your life. And you hate to say it that way, but you're fighting for your will to live, because some people can very easy just give up, miss a treatment, or miss this, or when they go home, they don't do what the doctor says. So you literally have to, that's why they say it's almost like a fight, that you have to keep fighting, that it's not your time to go. You're trying to defy, what this, this thing that's entered your body. So I understand what you're saying, but that's why they make it, that's why people who have had it or say that's why they say that they're going through that fight, because you always have to keep fighting for that opportunity to be able to wake up every morning and open your eyes, because that is, we always say, tomorrow is never given. It's every day you open your eyes is a good day.
I appreciate that clarification, because it just made me think a little deeper about it. I mean, and I've seen it firsthand. I watched my mom go through it. There wasn't a single day. That's one thing that really helped me out. Being a business owner, I was able to go to the hospital every single day to go be with my mom. And then when she got to come home, I was able to stop by her house every single day. It was all different times of the day, but because I could manipulate my own schedule, I was able to do that. And for that, I'm grateful. But sorry to get on that tangent. Let's move on. Thanks everybody for listening. You can close her out.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good, man. But hey, guys, as always, thank you for listening. And once again, like Kelly just said, Mr. Lee, our thoughts and prayers are with you. You just keep doing your thing, and just know that we're thinking about you. Guys, remember, we have our t-shirts now. We have our Teespring account going on. Shirts are going to keep going up. For the next until October 9th, when this one ends. Any proceeds from those shirts made to 25%. As of now, it's 25%. We could do more. That's something me and Kelly will decide, but at least 25% will be donated to the Hurricane Florence relief. Just like we said last week. Always remember, you can always check us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. New things will be coming up on the YouTube channel. We will be having our next yellow jacket giveaway. Not this weekend, but the following weekend. If you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, you will get a notification. It'll be scheduled. If you're not subscribed, you're going to want to go do that. Also, in our Facebook group, if you are not in that group, you're going to want to do that. Just HVAC Uncensored, and it's HVAC Uncensored on YouTube as well. So all that, I'll stop being a loudmouth. We thank you guys as always. This podcast would not be possible for you guys. Real fast, like he said, for Ethan, thank you for coming on, brother. It's been great. And the fact that he's so enthusiastic, we need to give him a big round of applause. It's so
Ethan,
yeah, it is so awesome. You give me an E, you give me a T. But yeah, it's so awesome to see younger guys enthusiastic coming to the trade, man, because this is the next generation of guys. So that's great to see. But as always, guys, be safe out there. Always go home the same way you left. And remember, always do what the next guy's not doing. So until next week, we'll talk to you later.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the HVAC Uncensored podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram, or email us anytime at hvacuncensored@gmail.com. Now, get back to work. Shut this down. The views and opinions shared on the HVAC Uncensored podcast may not necessarily be the views and opinions of our sponsors or guests.